Okay, action.
So people say to me, why doesn't God show up once in a while, you know? Give us a pep talk now and then. Show us who's on the right path and who's making a mess of things. But you know, nothing. And I get it, it's frustrating. Look, it bothers me too. Sometimes I even find myself in moments of prayer getting pretty pissed off at him. I'm like, hey God, can't you just reveal yourself to me? And not just on a piece of toast this time, because that just made me look stupid, you know? I mean, maybe next time lean out from a cloud and wink at us. That would go a long way in giving credibility to all of the crazy stuff we keep saying about you. I mean, you're making us look stupid down here, right? But it never happens. Not to me, not to anyone I know, and statistically, not to anyone else, ever. I mean, you know, not in a way that anybody can prove. But, you know, over time, I've learned to be okay with it. Now, fair enough. Atheists think this is a problem. They'll say, like, if God exists and he loves us, wouldn't he show up? Wouldn't he appear in an obvious, undeniable way? One that, like, even the harshest skeptics couldn't ignore? Wouldn't he want to rub it in their smug little faces just once? You know, make them look like the idiots for a change? And I mean, yeah, it'd be kind of nice. You know, it definitely would shut a lot of people up. But, you know, after many years of thinking very carefully about this, I've come to the only rational conclusion possible. God not appearing to anyone, ever, is the whole point. I mean, certainly God could show up if he wanted to. We all know that. He could appear right in front of you right now, anytime, while you're on the toilet even. But he chooses not to, and that's good for obvious reasons, right? I mean, it would be a good cure for constipation, but, yeah, you know, it's not...
Cut!
So today I want to present you with 3 possible answers to the question of divine hiddenness. Now, I'm not saying they're the only answers or even good ones, but they're my best attempts to reconcile all this while avoiding therapy. So here's my first answer, and I think it's the most obvious one. God has revealed himself. You just weren't there, you know, and that's not his fault. I mean, he literally came down here once, born as a baby in a desert, you know, surrounded by, you know, a few people. I mean, mostly shepherds and livestock, but still, it happened, you know, probably. Then he healed some people and said some really nice things and let everybody kill him. But, you know, I mean, that was the point. Then he came back to life for, like, you know, a few people. Yay! For a couple of weeks. In a region that was smaller than Delaware.
Cut.
And then he ascended straight up to heaven. You know, he took off like a rocket, which, if you think about it, is exactly what someone would do if they didn't want to stick around answering stupid questions all the time and constantly proving to everybody that they exist. But after that, still tons of revelation, tons. People had visions, there have been miracles, healings, toast, shadows on a wall. There was a cloud that looked like a dove that one time, like a lot of stuff. Just because it's not provable doesn't mean it's not real, okay? So yeah, maybe you can choose to disbelieve. You can say, well, that sounds suspiciously like something some people made up centuries ago and just kept repeating to themselves because they really, really wanted it to be true. I mean, sure, you could say that. But if you do, don't go around saying God is hidden. He's not. He showed up that one time, maybe, to a few people. A long time ago, you know, before cameras, television, and YouTube, in a small place, sure, and then left no way to prove any of it.
Cut!
Here's my second answer. Maybe God isn't hidden. Maybe it's just a perception thing. Like, technically, he's invisible, right? But kind of in the same way that thoughts and wind and odors are invisible, except you can't smell, hear, or touch them either. So, like, really, really invisible. But here's the thing. You have to know what to look for. Okay, let's take the Middle Ages, for example. People back then saw God everywhere, in the trees, in the sky, in music, and poetry, in their crops, and every suspicious weather event, every transmissible disease, every case of mental illness. I mean, they saw God in literally everything. That's how obvious he was. So if you ask someone back then, where's God? They'd just look at you like a dog seeing a cat on a TV screen. They would have said, what do you mean? Look around. God is everywhere. And I think that perception was probably the correct one. Now, sure, they also burned witches, saw demons in their soup, and thought sneezing was Satan trying to steal their soul. But still, I think they were probably really onto something back then. The good old days, you know, before science screwed up everything. So today, if you ask, where is God? Well, maybe the real question is, why don't you see God all around you? In birds and sunsets and Spotify's top 10 list. Honestly, sometimes when I get really frustrated, like when I've been begging God for a sign for weeks and all I get is crickets, I remember God's probably just up there saying, hey, relax. Just look around. I'm everywhere. Unless it's gross or harmful. I mean, not there, just in the nice stuff, obviously. All right, third answer. Now, I admit that my first two answers are maybe not totally satisfying. I mean, they're necessary, sure, but not sufficient. Because the skeptic will always come back with something like, okay, so you're saying God came down to earth once 2,000 years ago and revealed himself to like a handful of people in one of the most illiterate regions of the ancient world, and then just what, left? And since then, all we have are some stories written decades after the fact, along with claims of spiritual feelings and dogmatic assertions from modern day apologists who weren't there, but like to talk about it like they received an RSVP to the Last Supper. They'll say like, why doesn't he just show up in the sky? Why not give a TED talk on existence, morality, and why he made mosquitoes? And I get it, I do. He can make himself unmistakably, undeniably, gloriously obvious to every human being on earth. Like, boom, I'm God. Here's the meaning of life. Here's my approved sexual positions. But he doesn't do that. Why? Well, because that would make it too easy, obviously. And if there's one thing that God seems to hate, it's clarity. I mean, I have to admit, God does communicate like an emotionally distant dad. Vague instructions, long absences, and then he gets mad at you when you don't read his mind. Look, the point isn't just to believe, which I know in my other videos I kind of said was the whole point, but for the purposes of this video, let's just pretend I never said that, okay?
Cut.
See, if the point was just to believe, I mean, he could force that, and in fact, one day he will. I mean, just not any time that's convenient for any of us. But mark my words, one day no one will be an atheist, because after you die and you find yourself standing before God in judgment in all of his infinite awesomeness, it adds a level of credibility to the whole thing. You know what I'm saying? So why don't we get that sign now? Well, maybe the point isn't just to believe in God after all. Maybe the point is to love God, right? And God, being infinitely wise, understands that you can only truly love someone if you're not entirely sure they exist. Because the actual point of life is to desire God, to pine for him, to ache for him, to spend your life longing for someone who keeps ghosting you. Honestly, I think he kind of likes it when we're desperate and confused. He probably thinks we're cute when we get like that,
Jesus Christ, cut.
Let me clarify what I mean, and I'll use a classic analogy, one that God himself likes to use: marriage. So I think the best way to understand your relationship with the creator of all things is to imagine that you're dating him. Now guys, picture this. You meet a woman, maybe your future wife, and she's beautiful, absolutely radiant. You're captivated, you're enchanted, you're thinking, wow, look at those, I think I love her. But let's be honest, you didn't love her. You were just horny and emotionally immature. Because real love, that comes later, after the fireworks die down a bit, after the sexual attraction is cooled off to a mild, kind of boring, predictable simmer, like a stew you just can't take another bite out of, you know what I mean? I mean, like after you've seen her at night with that weird green facial mask she never warned you about? Or like after she's seen you lose it when you couldn't connect your streaming device to Wi-Fi? See, witnessing these personal moments of weakness and not walking away in disgust, that's when true love begins. Because love doesn't show up when you have butterflies in your stomach. No, true love shows up with a shared mortgage and tax audits and back fat. Oh yeah, God, right. If he just showed up in all his radiant glory, like his robe hanging over one shoulder the way that it does, hair blowing in the wind, sandals open-toed yet tasteful, we'd be too impressed. We'd swoon, we'd faint. We'd say, oh God, I love you. But it wouldn't be real love. It would be infatuation. Like going through spiritual puberty. We'd just be crushing on him. And God doesn't want to be your hot summer fling. No, he wants to be your long-term, emotionally stable life partner so you can worship him at his feet forever. So for now, he stays hidden. One day we'll all see the truth. You know, the whole cosmic transfiguration package in all its glory. You know, no more guessing, no more hiding. But here's the catch. If you wait until then to love him, it's too late for some reason. See, God wants you to choose him now. He needs to know that you wanted him while he was still mysterious and cagey and emotionally distant. That's why he never texts you back. But he's out there. He's watching. He's waiting, just quietly, like a ninja mouse wearing socks on a shag carpet. And when he sees that you've convinced yourself to believe without any evidence, that's when he calls you home. That's when you know he's real, because you've already convinced yourself that he is. You see how that works? And he didn't even have to do anything. Look, he's super busy, so it's really convenient for him if you can just take care of that part yourself. But if he sees that your soul is just kind of lying there like a lump, you know, like a seed that never sprouted, well then, you know, thanks for playing. The point is, the hiddenness, that's the opportunity. The uncertainty is the test. And the emptiness is the love, I guess. You know, look, anyway, that's just one possible answer. I mean, maybe it's not the best one, but I've managed to convince myself with it as long as I don't think about it for too much longer. So I'm just going to end the video now, okay?